there's no way this is it, right? There's no way this actually happens for the Toronto Blue Jays. And we've been waiting for a splash all offseason. The more days that go by, the less convinced we are that it's actually going to happen. And, this seems like a Blue Jays move, and it seems like it could be the splash of their offseason. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. Welcome in everybody to Jay's Digest. I'm your host Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And before we get into the video, shout out to each and every one of you for what was a great 2024 in terms of support. Let's keep that going though. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because a large percentage of you who are watching these videos aren't subbed to the channel. But we got some news to talk about here, and we've been trying to remain on the positive side, trying to think about the possibilities of transactions that could happen that could make this team better. And this one that we're going to talk about today, that's potentially looming, is not something that I'm overly excited about. And the fan base shares that sentiment that both Nick and I have. Nick, we've been waiting for a splash. We've been waiting for a Santander or a Bregman signing. We've been waiting for the Blue Jays to do something of significance. And the only, I guess you could say, significant move that they made was the acquisition of Andres Jimenez, and that didn't even fill a need that the Blue Jays had. It just added to one of their only strengths. So if this is what they do, Nick, then I'm sure the fan base will react positively to this. And that's sarcasm if you didn't pick that up.
Yeah, report dropped about 10 minutes ago as of recording, 15 minutes ago. Peter, it is not Bregman, it is not Santander. A new report dropped. They have interest in Yoan Moncada. So several teams, including the Cubs, Mariners, Jays, are interested in Moncada. The third baseman market continues to wait on what happens with Alex Bregman. Now, we didn't have a video on it, I don't think. We may have. They were also linked to him a month ago. So early December, I think it was December 12th, Francis Romero, who's a notable reporter, also came out and said the same thing, that the Jays are one of the teams pursuing him. So Peter, this just dropped. And in a nutshell, I'm not a huge fan of the move. I got some, stats, and we'll go over that as well. But this seems to be their backup plan. We know that they're actively pursuing Alex Bregman as well. And it seems like if they miss out on Alex Bregman, which I think he's going to go to the Tigers, that's what all signs are pointing to here, then their pivot for third base will be Yoan Moncada, which in a nutshell is, I don't hate it if you get a guy like Santander. Like if they go out and they get Anthony Santander and then they get Yoan Moncada to fill the third base spot, I don't hate it. But you can see this here. My basic view on Moncada is that he's a nice get if you've gotten legit bats for left field and DH, as well as fix up the pitching, actual upside at first base, but he doesn't move the needle much without these other moves. So, Peter, I want to get your thoughts on Yoan Moncada. Look at his stats here. He had a 117 OPS plus last year in 12 games, but 2021, 2022, 2022 was poor, but his 2021, he did have a 4 WAR. So if they go and get a guy like Santander and then they go out and they get a guy like Moncada, sure. But I can't imagine this is going to be, well, I can't imagine. I hope it's not their splash of the offseason.
Yeah, well, even if it is, you can't even rely on the guy to stay healthy. He's never played more than 140 games in a season and hasn't played more than 100 in the past 3 years. So, he played 104 in 2022. Like that's basically what you could expect out of him, and he's a average major leaguer. There's not really much to write home about with Yoan Moncada. The power is not great. Obviously, he was a very highly touted prospect when he was with the Boston Red Sox, which allowed the Red Sox to trade him away for Chris Sale in what was a blockbuster move at the time. I mean, White Sox fans were pretty fired up about the return because we've been hearing about Moncada for a while. I mean, the intangibles are there. Obviously, he's a very talented player, switch hitter, a guy that was touted as a five-tool guy as well. Hasn't really shown any of that promise in the big leagues. Has had some moments. He's had some decent seasons, as you could see there, but again, it's been mostly average for the most part, and didn't help that he was playing on borderline the worst team in Major League Baseball history last year, even though he only got into 12 games. So, like I said, the intangibles are not awful for Moncada. I think he's a good ball player, but he can't stay healthy. I don't know what the contract looks like. It can't be that big if considering his past track record here. So I'm not fully disgruntled about the move, but it doesn't move the needle and it doesn't really do anything. It's more so of a stopgap move. And if you were to ask me at this point, I'd just rather see Aurelvis Martinez play third base every day if this is what you're going to go out and get. There's no upside to Moncada. I think he missed the boat. He's had his chance to develop, and it's been a lot of lost seasons, been a lot of injuries, and just underperformance. So no, thank you. No, thank you. I'd rather see one of the young guys get in there for the Blue Jays and see what they can do.
Yeah, and if they get him, it would be a 1-year deal. There's no doubt about that one. And you see from Joshua, like I mentioned earlier, nice get if you got legit bats. If you go out and you get Santander, you go out and you get someone else to play DH consistently or whatever route you want to go with that. Then if you go out and you get Yoan Moncada, sure, it makes some sense because then you can go ahead and be that 1-year stopgap. Let Aurelvis Martinez develop more, especially after his 82-game suspension last year. You let Aurelvis develop, and then you go ahead and you prepare for Aurelvis to be the third baseman in 2026. But I think most fans would prefer Aurelvis to at least, again, his upside regarding Yoan Moncada. He did have a couple 5 WAR seasons. This was years ago now, 3 years ago and 6 years ago. So I think as you consider these options, Aurelvis probably gives you a better chance to win both now and in the future as well. But if they want to not stunt his development, and if they think he needs an extra bit of time in the minors, and they are going to win now this season, again, Bo's a pending UFA, Vladdy's a pending UFA, they get Santander, and then maybe they go out and get Moncada, sure, there's a chance for upside there. And again, a similar report back in December, he declined. Chicago declined their $25 million a year club option on Moncada. I'm guessing like 1 year, $8 million, something around that. Maybe 1 year, $10 million, something very small. Kevin Kiermaier obviously last year got the 1 year, $10 million deal. He was very good. And you mentioned it. It was a part of the Chris Sale trade way back in 2016. Was a consensus top 5 prospect. It's just not. He's not the same player. Injuries galore here. I mean, injuries last year, injuries the year before, and you mentioned he's had some healthy seasons. But even back in, his last healthy season, if you want to consider it like fully healthy, was 2021, where he played 144 games. So it's an interesting signing. I could see the Jays doing it. And if this is their move in a nutshell without Santander, and this is their pivot away from Bregman, assuming Bregman gets signed elsewhere, it would be a bit of a disaster for me if your two moves are Andres Gimenez and Yoan Moncada. But if they get Santander, then you can kind of salvage it a little bit. And I would hate this move less if they get Santander and they want to give Aurelvis more time to develop.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I mean, again, it's not something to get excited about, and it seems like a Blue Jays move. It seems like something that they would do,
Strikes out a lot
and
as well.
yeah, and it feels like no other team really is interested. I know that there's maybe some interest there from the Cubs and Mariners, but those are teams that are, looking to make the playoffs and not too far away from the playoffs. The Blue Jays are a lot further than those teams, I think, from the playoffs because the NL Central garbage division, the Mariners, they've had a couple of decent regular seasons here in the past couple of years, and the Astros got worse. I mean, the Rangers got better, so it could be a moot point, but I feel like the Mariners and the Cubs have better chances in their divisions, respectively, to make the playoffs as it stands right now because the AL East got a lot stronger over the offseason. And if that's your move to compete with the Orioles getting Tyler O'Neill and the Red Sox getting Garrett Crochet and a bunch of other guys, and then the Yankees beefing up their lineup, becoming a much deeper team, there's just going to be no competition there. You might move up from fifth to fourth. That's what you're looking at if Yoan Moncada is your headliner. So it's probably going to be cheap. I think the Blue Jays have enough infielders depth wise as it is to get through a season. Like Ernie Clement is fine at some points at third base. Aurelvis Martinez, we've been mentioning, but you want Aurelvis to play every day. So if he's not going to play every day, then he's probably better suited in AAA. But I mean, you have Davis Schneider who can play a little bit of infield as well. Like the pieces are there to make up for some depth in the infield, which is why bringing in another depth infielder, in my opinion, like Moncada, doesn't make too much sense. Again, it fills a need that the Blue Jays just simply don't have. So, I mean, it's okay if that's the direction you want to go in and you want Aurelvis to develop, but I just don't see any upside there. It doesn't make any sense. So you're probably better suited getting an outfielder that can hit for power as opposed to another infielder that does a lot of things similarly to what you already have on your roster.
Yeah, I agree. Let us know down below your thoughts, Sarah. still holding out hope for Anthony Santander, and even Bregman. The Jays are showing serious interest in him. So we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. Let us know, would you prefer Moncada or Relvis Martinez to start at third base on opening night? Thank you guys for watching. See you later.